it rains, it pours, and for the Philadelphia 76ers, it is about time to start building up an arc based on how much precipitation has come down within this organization. After being limited to just 23 games in his rookie season, Jared McCain lands right back where he left off on the injured list to start this season. Is Quinton Grimes set to be the biggest beneficiary of this issue here as he continues to hold out in his restricted free agency negotiations? Going to dive into the latest here. We are back in the full swing for this Sixers season. Media day is off and running, and unfortunately kicked off with not the news that we were hoping for. Not only is Joel Embiid's availability still in doubt with no clear indication of when and if he will be stepping on the floor. Not only is Paul George still dealing with the repercussions of his offseason surgery, but Jared McCain, the guy that would have been the runaway rookie of the year last year, the guy that brought a level of positivity that this organization frankly needed, is not set to begin the season in a Sixers uniform in the short term. I'm going to dive into what we know for this time being and why I think this is going to have direct implications on the Quentin Grimes negotiations. Now, before I dive fully into things, I do want to remind you guys, as always, to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Let's rid those demons ourselves from last year, wipe the expectations clean, and get ready to build something. I appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into these videos here, but at this point in time, 61.1% of you guys watching these videos have not subscribed to us here at Sixers Digest. I'm ready to hit the ground running for a more positive vibe season. It cannot get worse than was the case last year, I would like to believe, and ready to cover this thing from start to finish. Now, to dive into the latest of what we have today, I want to start off with this report coming here that we got breaking news yesterday on the eve of the media day for the Sixers. That breaking news, Jared McCain suffered a UCL tear in his right thumb during a workout on Thursday, the 76ers announced. McCain and the team are consulting with specialists on the next steps. Now, we did not get a clear outlook or timeline or what the recovery process is from Daryl, Morey, or Nick Nurse directly here during media day, but what we did get was an update from Shams Charania here saying that he's expected to undergo thumb surgery and will miss around 4 to 6 weeks. Now, while it is obviously far from ideal that Jared McCain is not going to be available for the start of the season, this is a bit of a bullet dodge here. That when you think about the timeline for 4 to 6 weeks here, the worst case scenario, assuming this is what goes down, and honestly I think it is fair to start assuming the worst case scenario with this Sixers organization, we're talking about missing about 15 games for the start of the season. Not a season ender, not something that's going to severely limit things here, but certainly still has some implications on this Sixers team. Now, to reflect on McCain overall, that in his rookie season, once again, just 23 games played, but the 21-year-old played 25.7 minutes per game, averaged 15.3 points, 2.4 rebounds, 2.6 assists, shot 46% from the field, 38.3% from beyond the three-point arc there, and it does feel like there's more of a skepticism surrounding this guy than I believe should be the case. That my eyes did not lie to me on the version of him that we saw during that brief stretch with this Sixers team. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that the version of Jared McCain we saw last year is ready to launch into superstardom across the NBA, but what I do believe is that is a difference maker offensively and brings a level of movement, a level of creativity, a level of straight up scoring ability that this organization straight up needs here. Now, the reason that I tie this into the Quentin Grimes situation is he's still sitting on the sideline and has not signed a contract. It does feel that we are getting closer to this becoming a real deal issue. That October 1st being the date that is being talked about, or the date that is the deadline for him to decide whether or not he opts into that qualifying offer here. For the first time in this entire Quentin Grimes conversation, he's got a little bit of leverage on his side. And the reason that I say this is I've stood 10 toes down speaking out through the entire offseason that the Sixers held the entirety of the leverage in this situation. Quentin Grimes was a restricted free agent, meaning no team on the market could go out there and sign him without the Sixers' consent, that they had the right to match any bit of those offers. And even as the market completely died down, that across the entire NBA, the restricted free agent market basically being non-existent here, the Sixers have stood steady here, saying, Quentin Grimes, you're going to come to us, that whatever we offer you, you basically have to take. Well, the reason that things have changed now is you need to have a somewhat competent roster from day one. The Sixers, from Daryl Morey to Nick Nurse to everyone on the roster, cannot afford for this year to go off the rails. They straight up can't from a job security standpoint. That last year was among the biggest failures in professional sports. Let's not forget that rewind to this time last year, we're talking about this Sixers team as legitimate contenders in the Eastern Conference. That Paul George was brought in to be a finishing piece around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. And what happened? They had their worst season in a decade and were not competitive really from start to finish. That right from day one, they did not have the look of a team that competed hard, a team that knew their identity, a team that knew who was active and available on a night-by-night basis. That cannot happen for a second consecutive season. So with the knowledge now that Jared McCain is not going to be there from day one, what can the Sixers do? Do you keep playing hardball with Quentin Grimes right now? A guy who, at the minimum, you know what he is from a basketball player perspective in a way, and to highlight what he brought to the table last year for Grimes. But again, a bit of a unique situation based on the context of the team. But the facts of the matter, this guy played 26.8 minutes per game last year, averaged 14.6 points, 4.3 rebounds, 3.0 assists, shot 46.7% from the field, and 38.5% from beyond the three-point arc there. During his time with the Sixers, the 21 games that he did spend here in Philadelphia, averaging over 21 points per game, looking dynamic, playing with the most basketball freedom that he had been granted through the duration of his NBA career, and certainly made the most of it. Now, I understand a little bit of the staring contest here. That for starters, every penny matters a little bit more to the NBA salary cap than really has been the case historically. When you factor in the first aprons, the second aprons, the restrictions that are brought on, that Daryl Morey is going to try and cut that margin as thin as possible to give yourselves the most flexibility on the back end. I understand Quentin Grimes' point here as well, that he came to Philadelphia. He proved what he could do. This is not theoretically he could grow into this player, that he made the most of his opportunity of some empty calorie basketball games. With no expectations for the team as a whole, Quentin Grimes took that upon himself to get the most damage done that he possibly could. We're talking about 40-point games. We're talking about this guy shooting 25 plus times per game in a way that just simply would not be allowed in a normal construct of an NBA game. But shout out to Grimes for making the most of his opportunity, and he's ready to earn it in the back end here. Now, the reason that this ties together is think about the current constructs of the Sixers roster. Tyrese Maxey, former All-Star, stud, a guy that has established a culture, and I loved everything that he did say at media today about setting a standard. The number one goal that Tyrese Maxey had for this year is he talked about it should not matter who's available on a night-by-night basis, who you're playing, what team. There should be a barometer of what you expect for the Philadelphia 76ers. I do think in the long run, that is the number one thing this team should be aspiring to. This cannot just be a, who knows what team's going to show up tonight. There has to be an identity in a way that really has not been the case in several seasons, and that's especially problematic when you factor in the lack of availability of guys like Joel Embiid and Paul George there. But you know what you're getting with Tyrese Maxey, but he cannot take on the world alone. Do you believe that right now, VJ Edgecombe at age 20 can be your day one starting shooting guard? I think that's a bit naive to throw those type of expectations on a guy who still has to refine his skill set and still find a way to make the NBA jump. This is not me doubting the Edgecombe pick or his outlook as a player. I'm pretty high on what he can be, and I love his versatility. We heard nothing but glowing reports from everyone within the Sixers organization, from Morey to Nick Nurse to the teammates that have competed with him in these workouts that they've been doing leading up to the season. It is great news on that regard. But the Sixers have a responsibility themselves to basically hedge their bet as much as possible here. You know how much things went off the rail last year, and you simply cannot allow that opportunity. So you got to step up and pay the man with Quentin Grimes. Now, as has been the case throughout the duration of this offseason here, it is not a question of if, it is a question of what dollar figure and what length for Grimes. At the worst case scenario, and I do believe this is worst case for both sides, meaning Grimes and the Sixers here, would be for him to opt into that player option, or for the qualifying offer, excuse me there. The reason that's worst case from the Sixers, you basically lose all leverage in this situation. He gets a no trade clause with that. You cannot theoretically flip him at the trade deadline for a better fitting player, because I do think there is an honest reality here that this four-guard combination of Maxey, McCain, Edgecombe, and Grimes probably cannot be sustainable in the long run. Now, I need a sample size to be able to make that determination, and I think the Sixers feel that same exact way, which is all the more reason why you need to step up and give a real contract offer to Quentin Grimes to keep him in Philadelphia or wherever he ends up, or whoever ends up footing the end of that bill for whatever length that may be. If you were to opt into that qualifying offer for Grimes also, he sort of misses out on what would be the best potential payday of his career. And the reason that this is a cautionary tale to him is when you think about it from Grimes' perspective, you really want to do a one-year bet-on-yourself type contract to be an unrestricted free agent next year. When you factor in the construct of the Sixers roster, they have far more invested in Tyrese Maxey, in Jared McCain, and VJ Edgecombe directly there. Those are all guys that play a similar position. Now, there's a case to be made and an argument that Grimes is the more balanced two-way athlete out of all these names here. I don't quite see it that way, that I think Maxey deserves more praise for his defensive growth. I think VJ Edgecombe is going to athletically pop in a way that is kind of special on this Sixers team. But the point being here, if the organization's well aware of these exact same circumstances here, guess who's going to get those opportunities or first dibs at them? It's going to be the guys that they're more invested in. The point being in all of this is the Sixers and Quentin Grimes just need to come to common ground. The Jared McCain injury only sparks up the urgency of when this needs to be done and why this is so important. Quinton Grimes has to be a part of the day one roster for the Sixers team, especially now that McCain is not. I'm confident that that is going to come together, but I do believe this McCain injury is going to be the kick in the butt that maybe Daryl Morey needed. For McCain directly here, I don't want to have the conversations of is he injury prone yet. It's two different ligament issues in the span of under one calendar year, which is not a great sign, but I'm willing to give the kid a benefit of the doubt at this point. I think what was probably the case more than anything is this dude was like killing himself in workouts, trying to get better, and ultimately came up with a little bit of a knock there. I like Jared McCain. I'm optimistic about Jared McCain, and I do think 4 to 6 weeks from now, when this is fully recovered, we'll be back to having these same positive tunes that we've had the whole time. For the time being, let's hang on and see what else is to go down within this organization. It is always something with the Sixers, and I'll be here to cover things from start to finish right here on Sixers Digest. So once again, if you have not already, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button to the channel. Once again, only 38.8% of you guys watching these videos have subscribed just yet, so make sure you're hitting that button, dropping a like on this video here, giving your thoughts below. I'll be back. Talk with you next time. Peace.